So then, we're at the 8th installment of the franchise, and not only was this Mega Man's debut on the 5th generation of consoles, it was also the 10th anniversary of Mega Man at this time. And like Mega Man 6, Mega Man 8 was also another title I've had a long history with, but I haven't played this game in years. This is actually the first time I played this after playing the previous 7 entries in the series. So without further ado, let's look at Mega Man 8 for the PlayStation 1 and the Sega Saturn.
Mega Man 8. I must have rented you like 3 to 4 times back in the late 90s. I can't exactly recall our past experiences too clearly, but I now own you sitting in my growing PS1 collection. You and your garish greatest hits green spine. The PlayStation 1's greatest hits color was always an eyesore for me. I'm not gonna bother making a clever analogy for it, this color is just fucking obnoxious. Now, the reason I'm looking at both the PS1 and Saturn version of the game is because the Saturn version was released a few months after the PlayStation version, and as a result contained some extra content I thought was worth looking at for the review. Why is my copy Japanese? There you go, that's why. Thanks to this action replay card I spent a good chunk of change on, I can play Japanese imports on my Sega Saturn no problem. Throughout the review, I'll be showing footage from both playthroughs I recorded from each system. The one with better clarity is the PlayStation 1 version since I recorded it using my Hot Pod and PlayStation 3, while the Saturn version was recorded with this thing, which is not a Hot Pod. That's enough of the technical jargon. Mega Man 8 was released in celebration of Mega Man's 10th anniversary, and it shows as early as the opening animated intro. This pretty much sums up the past 7 games, only at times it shows Mega Man actually shooting in more than one direction, and that's just horseshit. The Japanese version has this J-pop song accompanying the intro called Electrical Communication, which I think fits pretty well, but I also like the instrumental thing that plays in the English release. Mega Man 7 was when the series started throwing more story elements into the mix, which Mega Man 8 continues with, but in addition to in-game conversations with various characters, we also have full-fledged animated cutscenes that play at certain times. With that said, our story begins with 2 mysterious figures battling to the death in the reaches of space, above the surface of what looks like Saturn. After a few seconds of headbutting, the purple one begins to fall towards planet Earth, with the blue one giving chase. Meanwhile, Mega Man is seen clashing guns with Bass.
Hey, Bass! Why must I fight you? We are not enemies!
Okay, first off, it's Bass, not Bass. He's not a fish. And secondly, not enemies. Did he forget Mega Man 7 already or what?
Thirdly, yes, that's Mega Man's voice. Mega Man 8 doesn't just have animated cutscenes, it also has voice acting. As the game that celebrates Mega Man's 10th anniversary, I'm sure the developers took extra care in hiring the best English voice actors a gaming company in the mid-90s could afford.
You'll pay for this insult. I'll be back.
But where is Dr. Wily?
That's a good question. We may be able to locate another energy emission from the radar room. When we find that meteor, we'll find Dr. Wily.
Good God, where do I even begin with this? Mega Man sounds more like a girl than Roll does, Dr. Light has a serious case of the Elma Fuds, and almost everyone sounds like they're recording their dialogue in their mom's living room in the middle of the night.
The barrier prohibits me from going there.
I can only assume the Japanese voice acting is better, but that's because I can't understand any of it. I am curious though, is the Japanese voice acting considered as bad for Japanese gamers as the English voice acting is for English gamers? Well, bad voice acting or not, it is deliciously entertaining for all the wrong reasons.
You must recover all the energy immediately, Mega Man.
Dr. Light informs Mega Man that a meteorite has crash landed in this deserted island that happens to be shaped like a skull. Unsurprisingly, the island is a secret base for Dr. Wily, who manages to salvage the remains of the meteorite before Mega Man can get to it. Mega Man notices a damaged robot inside the crater, and leaves it for Dr. Light to inspect. As punishment for failing to stop Dr. Wily, Mega Man has to fight 4 robots before he's worthy enough to face the Doctor for the 8th time. That's the only reason I can possibly think of for Mega Man needing to fight these things, because these robots just come out of nowhere with no build-up. By the way, only 4 robots, huh? I ain't buying that in the slightest. Even the back of the case spoils that there's 8 new enemies to defeat, so why continue with this particular formula? Alright then, Mega Man has made the jump into the 5th generation, and well, I think it's pretty obvious just by looking at it. Richer colors, more detailed sprites, very fluid animation, and because we're dealing with CD technology this time, we have CD quality audio. The production values overall have seen an upgrade since Mega Man's short lifespan on the Super Nintendo, and I will say, it all looks and sounds good. The Saturn version has a few added effects for some stages like better looking water and Aquaman stage. Yes, there's a robot in this game called Aquaman. I'd make a joke about that, but I'm pretty sure everyone else in the history of ever has already done so.
I'm Aquaman, but you can call me handsome guy!
Tango Man's theme in the Saturn version is also completely different from the PS1 version, which I'm not sure on why that is. After playing it enough, I think the Saturn version overall has richer sound quality. I put a strong emphasis on I think because I swear there were a lot of little nuances I noticed in the Saturn version that I didn't get with the PS1 version. I won't spend much time on Mega Man himself since he's pretty much the same as he has been for the last few games, although he can actually swim in this game when it comes to water levels. That's not as amazing as you think it would be though. One thing you can do in this game that you couldn't do before is the ability to shoot your Mega Buster while simultaneously using a special weapon, so you don't have to find yourself frantically switching between weapons to deal with a certain threat or obstacle. With this game's level design, however, I never really found the need to do that, though I think it's gotten a little worse since Mega Man 7. Every stage is equipped with set pieces that will challenge you in different ways. The Tengu Man stage has this section where you use Rush Jet to bombard an air fleet, and Frostman has this snowboarding section that'll test your jumping and sliding abilities. And it's with this certain challenge that I'm fucking certain that the version of Mega Man 8 you can find in the Anniversary Collection has some sort of input lag. At least in the PS2 version, because there were countless times where I swear I hit the jump button, but Mega Man just careened off the damn platform like a blue dope. When I played the game on the original PS1 release and the Saturn version, I cleared these snowboarding sections on my first try. Is it just me? More than ever, there's a large emphasis on using your special weapons to clear certain obstructions and nothing else. Your Mega Buster does a fine enough job in taking care of threats. The special weapons aren't horrible, but most of the time they're situational. The only one I consistently use is the Flash Bomb, because of its lingering effects that take down enemies very quickly. Besides that, I'm just using most of these weapons to either take down the boss that's weak to it, or to reveal a hidden pathway that contains a bolt for this game's shop. Bolts are nowhere near as abundant as they were in Mega Man 7. In fact, there's only 40 of them in total, and you really gotta go out of your way for a good chunk of them. I hate trying to collect the bolts you have only one shot of getting, because if you screw up, you essentially gotta get a game over, because the checkpoint is right after the area where the bolt was, with no way of backtracking to get it. Between stages, you can visit the shop and purchase upgrades that Mega Man can use to have an easier time. This includes alterations to your Mega Buster to give it more of a punch, an upgrade that completely negates knockback, thank God, to something incredibly mundane as the ability to climb ladders faster. Who the hell? Well, Rush is back, but damn is he nearly useless here. There's no Rush Jet here, no Rushed Coil, hell there's no Super Adapter. Instead, after defeating certain mini-bosses, you gain access to the likes of the Rush Bike, a power-up I only used once or twice in the playthrough because it's just a means of having Mega Man move faster on the ground. Once platforms are thrown into the equation, which is all the time, Rush Bike suddenly becomes less useful. Then there's the likes of the Rush Question, where Rush taps into his inner Eddie and gives you a random item, or he can just fall asleep.
Man's best friend.
There is one Rush item I do like, the one where Rush assaults you with health and weapon energy. This ability, especially late game, can be really handy because Mega Man 8 has no energy tanks, none whatsoever, and you can only use this ability once per life. It's not all bad because Mega Man 8 handles things a little differently compared to the other games. First off, stages are broken into two segments. When you begin the second half of a stage, everything, which includes your life, weapon energy, and rush parts, gets refilled completely. Every time you lose a life, everything gets refilled. If you somehow lose all your lives after entering the second part of the level, you continue in the second half of the level. It almost completely eliminates the need for lives in general. So as you can see, the game is pretty damn generous at times, so the absence of energy tanks isn't too unnerving, but it still feels like a step backwards to me. I thought energy tanks were awesome. They gave me confidence, and it always brought a little smile to my face when I collected them. It's the little things, you know? So after Mega Man defeats the last of the 4 robots, Mega Man heads back to the lab with the energy samples he collected from the 4 robots. This, as we'll find out soon, is called Evil Energy. I shit you not, that's what it's called, and to seal the deal, it's literally shaped like a skull. The robot Mega Man found in the crater is repaired thanks to Dr. Light, and soon awakens. Observing that the remains of the evil robot he faced earlier is living on as the Evil Energy, the robot flips out with Mega Man tailing after him. If you're playing the Saturn version of the game, you can have a rematch with Cutman from Mega Man 1, complete with a remix of this theme, which I find pretty cool, but eventually Mega Man manages to locate the rogue robot. The two have a round of fisticuffs with Proto Man soon jumping in to put an end to it. The mysterious robot escapes, and Proto Man tells Mega Man that Wowie's tower is just beyond the next area, with Mega Man immediately heading towards it. Unfortunately, giant robot gorilla, who then proceeds to squeeze the shit out of Mega Man for a good 20 seconds with Mega Man screaming his lungs out during the entire time. Whether it's English or Japanese, this part is ear-grating in equal quality. Holy shit, someone save him and shut him up already! Oh, thank God. Out of nowhere comes the mysterious robot who manages to save Mega Man and then introduces himself as Duo, a being created for the sole purpose of eliminating evil. Starting with Giant Gorilla Bot over there. Duo explains that Evil Energy is indeed evil, but he can't access Wowie's tower because of a barrier that blocks entry. A force field that needs to be shut down. This calls for 4 more Robot Masters, and sure enough, there they are. The second half of the game always seemed to drag for me. Swordman stage is pretty fun in my opinion, and Surgeman stage is okay enough. You can even fight Woodman here in the Saturn version of the game. However, Astroman and Aquaman stages are not exactly what I would call fun. I don't really like the labyrinth puzzles of Astroman stage, and this mini-boss takes forever to kill in Aquaman stage. I swear he has more health in the Saturn version too. But you know, in due time, Mega Man defeats the last of the Robot Masters and gains entry to Wowie's tower. Like Mega Man 7, it isn't a gauntlet, so you're free to explore previous stages to collect more bolts for the shop. A lot of these upgrades really aren't that spectacular though. I recommend the Arrow Shot for added power, the Hypercharger to shoot more charged arrow shots, the Super Recover to get the most out of pickups, and for shits and giggles, the Climb Ladders faster upgrade. Considering how this game is designed, I'm actually surprised Wily's Tower isn't a gauntlet. I mean, everything you have replenishes between stages and deaths, and it's not like there's any bolts to collect in the Wily stages, so if a player is entering the Wily Tower, they're most likely finished with exploring the rest of the game. It's all just a nitpick, but I thought it was worth bringing up. With that said, there's only one thing I can't stand about this place, the beginning of Wily Stage 1. Again, this place gave me absolute hell in the Anniversary Edition, but I managed to complete it on my first try in both the original PS1 release and the Saturn version. I'm telling you, there has to be some sort of input lag. There just has to be. Everything else about Wily's Tower is nothing really to talk about. There's a bit of obnoxious enemy placement from time to time, and the bosses aren't too much to discuss. Well, Bass makes a reappearance after being noticeably absent during the entire game, but even his fight doesn't compare to the boss fights in Mega Man 7. And if you're wondering why I'm not violently reacting to the mere sight of the Green Devil, it's because I knew this guy's been a total pushover since I first played the game in the late 90s. Look at that, I didn't take a single hit. Mega Man reaches Wily and almost dies to Wily's cannon, but Duo comes in just in time to save Mega Man, and then soon leaves thanks to the assistance of Proto Man. But Dr. Wily is still alive and kicking. That actually makes this whole sequence seem rather pointless, doesn't it? Wily is challenging, but only because you don't have energy tanks, so you gotta bring your A game when it comes to dodging shit and using your first aid kit from Rush at the right time. With one final blast, Wily is defeated, who then begins the whole begging for forgiveness thing for the 8th time. Well, to the game's credit, they're certainly aware of how old it's getting and proceeds to make fun of it slightly, so we have that at least. Suddenly, a burst of energy emits from Wily's capsule and attacks Mega Man, which for some odd reason warps our hero out of the Wily Tower, which I'm sure the Doctor himself has managed to escape. Duo, for the 3rd time, saves Mega Man by pulling the evil energy from his robotic nether regions, and thanks the unconscious Mega Man for helping him on his mission to stop evil. Duo departs, Mega Man regains consciousness, everyone's happy, and Proto Man tells Mega Man that Duo thanks him for the assistance, ending Mega Man 8.
You know, after playing the 7 previous entries in the series, Mega Man 8 seems really lackluster in comparison.
Now don't get me wrong, Mega Man 8 definitely looks and sounds like a title representing the 10th anniversary in the series, but gameplay-wise, it just feels off. Perhaps it's because the limited access of Rush or the uninspired bosses, maybe it's a lot of little things that just build up over time and hamper my experience overall. I know one thing for sure, I didn't have as much fun here as I did in previous games. Hell, I think Mega Man 7's a better game. Mega Man 8 is about on the same level as Mega Man 5 for me. Sure, the production values are top notch for a 2D 5th generation title, but in terms of the game itself, it's just there. Maybe there was a reason I always rented the game instead of just buying it back in the 90s. Mega Man 8 is solid in its own way, but compared to the other games in the series, I feel there are better options. I would recommend you the Saturn version because of the added content such as the extra boss fights, the graphical touch-ups, and the bonus galleries you can view at your leisure, but unless you don't mind shelling out some money for an action replay and a Japanese copy of the game, you're going to be paying a pretty penny for the English version. Just try to avoid the version on the Anniversary Collection. Did I mention that version also has sound issues? Sorry, just proving a point.
Okay then, 3 games left to look at, 2 more videos to go, folks. So I'll see you guys next time with Mega Man and Bass for the Super Nintendo in 1998?
I hate trying to collect the bolts you have only one shot of getting, because if you screw up... Oh, Jesus Christ, I didn't realize I wrote that.